تفضل.
الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. طيب يا إخوان, we live in a time and in a place where, and amongst the people who, the slogan is, the motto is, perception is reality. And appearance is everything. So again, the motto is, perception is reality, appearance is everything. So what that does is it causes people to concern themselves a lot with the outside, the exterior, and trying to do whatever they have to do cosmetically, with fashion, to project an image. And whether or not that image is really consistent with reality or not, doesn't concern them. Just, we want people to think good things about us, positive things about us, and so we put on that persona. We wear it on the outside. And we're not too concerned about whether or not that persona really exists on the inside. And unfortunately, what happens is that Muslims, because we live amongst the people who think like this, and people are products of their environment, we start to think the way they think. We start to concern ourselves a lot with the exterior and not so much with the interior. And so we need to be reminded that from an Islamic perspective, Islam is more concerned with the inside than it is with the outside. كما جاء في الحديث إن الله لا ينظر إلى أجسادكم ولا إلى أموالكم ولكن يطلع على قلوبكم وأعمالكم. So in the hadith, Prophet ﷺ said, verily Allah does not look at your bodies, your exteriors. He doesn't look at your wealth, but rather He scans your hearts and your deeds. So that being said, Ya Ikhwan, I wanted to start a series where we would kind of talk about the importance of the interior and stress it. And what we'll do today is we'll look at the interior from an Islamic perspective. And it's how paramount, the paramount importance of the exterior in Islam, or the interior, I should say, in Islam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some ayat and a few ahadith which emphasize this so we can go away with the proper perspective. We can calibrate ourselves, so to speak. So the first thing I'm going to say, Ya Ikhwani, is that from the Islamic perspective, what really matters, what really counts, especially on the Day of Judgment, is the soundness and the purity of a person's heart. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. He says, the day whereon wealth and sons will not benefit anyone, except he who comes to Allah with a sound heart. Another point is that entering paradise hinges on the purity of the heart, not on the exterior. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Qaf, وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. Paradise will be brought close to the pious people, and it won't be far off. هَذَا مَا تُوعَدُونَ لِكُلِّ أَوَّابٍ حَفِيظٍ. This is what has been promised for every penitent person who practices self-restraint. مَنْ خَشْيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The one who fears Ar-Rahman behind closed doors. وَجَاءَ بِقَلْبٍ مُنِيبٍ. And he comes to Allah with a devoted heart. It didn't say anything about money. It didn't say anything about, plastic surgery. Right? It It didn't say anything about fashion, but who comes to Allah with a devoted heart. Another thing which is significant, ya ikhwani, is that people make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes can reach the level of what? Kufr. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that a person can قَدْ كَفَرَ بِلِسَانِهِ قَدْ يَكْفُرْ بِلِسَانِهِ قَدْ يَكْفُرْ بِجَسَدِهِ بِأَعْضَائِهِ. He could commit disbelief with his tongue, commit disbelief with his limbs, but that won't make him a disbeliever unless what? Unless he disbelieves in his heart. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِهِ. Whoever disbelieves in Allah after believing. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. So basically the one who he disbelieved after he became a disbeliever would what? Leave Islam. Except the one who was coerced and what? His heart was at peace, at rest, tranquil with what? Faith. Another example, which is important, ya ikhwan, is that the heart is the mechanism for al-fahm wal-fiqh. It's the mechanism by which we really understand and comprehend things. People think it's what? A dimag, they think it's the brain. But in reality, it's what? It's the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts, but they don't what? Comprehend with them. And He says in the other ayah, أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونْ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. It says, have they not traversed in the earth and had hearts by which they were, with which they would fathom and comprehend. So it's the heart, ya ikhwan. And that's why you see people who have a great deal of what? Mental capacity. They have a great deal of intelligence in terms of what? Their brain. They don't what? They're not able to understand and fathom the truth. They're not able to puzzle it through. It's like Ibn al-Qayyim said about the Mu'tazila, who are some very intelligent people when we talk about the brain intelligence. He said, أُوتُوا ذَكَاءً وَلَمْ يُؤْتُوا زَكَاءً. He said they were given brain intelligence, but they weren't given what? The purity of heart that would enable them to what? To accept the truth when it came to them. Another thing, ya ikhwan, which is important is that the one who his heart is blind, he'll never see the truth. Even if what? If he sees, even if the person who what? Has perfect vision, 20/20. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارُ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. It's not the eyes that are blind, ya ikhwan. It's not the eyes that keep you from seeing. But what becomes blind is what? The heart that's in your chest. So that goes to show you, ikhwan, that this heart is really critical if we want to what? Recognize the truth and follow it. That we have to have pure hearts. It's not enough to think, well, I'm smart, I'm good in math, or I have I sit in all the durus. Yeah, but if your heart isn't pure, what will happen? It'll be like a glass turned upside down. If you try to pour something into it, will anything go inside? No. But the other thing I want to point out, ya ikhwan, which is really important, is that the heart becomes sick. It can be diseased. The heart can be stained, covered with the stain. And the heart can become hard, like a rock, and resist the truth, repel the truth, instead of what? Absorbing it. Can you get water into a stove? But you can get water into what? A sponge. So the heart is supposed to be like a sponge, but if we don't behave correctly, it can become hard like a stone. Just what? The truth just what? It splashes away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ. In their hearts there is a disease. And He says, كَلَّا بَالْرَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ. He says, nay, indeed, on their heart is what? A stain. وقال سبحانه ثم قست قلوبهم من بعد ذلك هي كالحجارة أو أشد قسوة. He says, and after that, their hearts became hard, like stones, or even what? Harder than stones. And Ibn Mubarak used to say, رأيت الذنوب تميت القلوب وقد يورث الذل إدمانها. He used to say, I have seen sins killing hearts. Hearts can die, ikhwan. وَقَدْ يُورِثُ الذُّلَّ إِدْمَانُهَا. And he said that when a person becomes addicted to sin, what happens as a result of that, it causes him to what? To be humiliated. It causes him to be humiliated. And he went on to say, رحمه الله تعالى, وَتَرْكُ الذُّنُوبِ حَيَاةُ الْقُلُوبِ وَخَيْرٌ لِنَفْسِكَ إِسْيَانُهَا. So he went on to say, but leaving sin will give life to the hearts. And what's best for yourself is that you disobey it. Because yourself is always telling you what? Do the wrong thing. Yourself is what? It has lots of desires. It tells you do this, do this. So the best thing for you is what? To disobey what? Your soul. And so, well, before concluding, I want to mention the famous hadith that we all know that tells us that there is a correlation. And this is important too, because we all want to look good. We all want to have a good appearance. But what we need to understand is that the best way to have a nice appearance on the outside is to what? Purify the inside. Because there's a talazum, there's a correlation between what? The purity of the inside and what? Your appearance on the outside. As the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir, Fatwa Bukhari Muslim, he said, أَلَا فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةٌ إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. So he said in the hadith, is there not in the body a lump of flesh? That if it is pure, sound, and upright, the body will be what? Upright. And if it is foul and corrupt, the body will be foul and corrupt. Certainly, it's the heart. So if you want to look good on the outside, begin with what? The inside. And the good thing about that, ya ikhwan, is once you are pure from the inside out, that's not cosmetics. That's not something that when the rain falls is going to wash off. No, that's what? That's going to be with you regardless of what? Ash-shada'id. Regardless of what the circumstances. Regardless of what you experience of difficulties and hardships. That's going to be with you. You're going to be beautiful on the outside because of what? The iman and the purity of the heart on the inside. And that's why Abu Hurairah used to say, Al-qalbu huwa al-malik. Wal-a'ba junudu. He used to say that the heart is like a king. And the limbs are its obedient soldiers. فَإِذَا طَابَ الْمَلِكِ طَابَتْ جُنُودُهُ. If the king is upright, and he's pure, and he's good, and he's righteous, the limbs are going to do what? Obey his righteous commands and do likewise. They're going to be righteous. وَإِذَا خَبُثَ الْمَلِكِ خَبُثَتْ جُنُودُهُ. But if the king is corrupt, the limbs are going to be corrupt. The soldiers are going to be corrupt. So let's think about that, ya ikhwan. Let's not fall into the mindset of perception is reality. Appearance is everything. Appearance is not everything. Don't worry about the outside. Worry about the inside, and the outside will take care of itself. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.